And you look up.
Hold on. And you also talk with marbles in your mouth. And so I can't understand half the things you say.
So I look over to my right and I see Sugar Rashad Evans sitting on the step.
And I said,
nonchalant.
I go, what? He goes, yeah, Rashad Evans is over there. And I'm like, who? Because, I'm not really paying attention to Matt anyway. And then I go, all right, let me go, holy crap, it's Rashad. So what's up? What's going on?
Not much, man. Just here on, Media Row, just, experiencing this wonderful environment. I mean, we have the media scrum for the UFC, but it pales in comparison to this. This is quite the spectacle.
This is, and I think I told you this last year, this is my favorite event to cover because this is a Zoom. And literally everybody and anybody, and at the NFL, I don't want to talk to football players. I want to talk non-football. Just like when I'm at the UFC scrums, I would always talk other things, for that reason. And like I just told the other two guys that were here, back in the day, nobody cared about MMA or the UFC. What do you show?
Back when Rashad Evans came into the pizza shop.
Yeah, with Tony Ferguson.
And he took an L to Tony in the pizza competition at Puerto Pizza. And but you know what my takeaway from that day was, Randy, was I remember you hadn't started your weight cut yet.
Yeah.
You were still sitting around 225.
Yeah.
And you learned about the pizza diet. And at one point you turned around to me and you're like, there's no way you eat nothing but pizza, bro.
Yeah.
Like, how do you look like that?
Yeah.
And so that's it, man. Living proof.
Diet.
10 years later, here we are.
Okay, before I was really interrupted. Back to what I was saying. So on Radio Row, I used to try to get Chuck Liddell, and nobody cared, in the early days. And I told Dana this yesterday. I love now that my favorite sport, the fighters are walking around and they're like, hey, will you do the show? Hey, can you do the show? Hey, I know who you are. To me, that's cool. What's that like for you?
I'll tell you what, it's a breath of fresh air. I'll tell you that because, being an athlete or mixed martial artist, you never know, like in these, the top 4 sports, if they're gonna know who you are, just to the layman media guy. So you kind of walk around like, okay, I wonder if anybody's gonna say anything. But it's good to see the response, and it really shows the growth of mixed martial arts. It's showing it's growing in such a way that not only is it getting the eyeballs, but it's getting the respect. So that's what I really like.
Like I said, I don't talk NFL with this, and I don't talk boxing. When I'm in the Buccaneer locker room, locker room, it's clubhouse in baseball, we're talking MMA. We're talking UFC, which I love, and that's how back in the day, when people didn't like it, it kind of started it. It started to, branch out. Alex Kappa, we were just talking about with the Cincinnati Bengals. That's all we talk is MMA.
Yeah.
When I tell him, he's like, oh my God, I got to come, and he lives here in Phoenix. To me, that's cool. That's almost making it. The UFC and MMA continues to grow. I think there's still plenty of room to grow. I think they will be top 4.
Yeah, I agree too. I think that where the UFC is going, and just for me, it was a sign of us being a top 4 sport when we came back from the pandemic. The first to come back from the pandemic, the first to kind of lead the charge of how to come back from the pandemic, and what steps to take, and pretty much devising a protocol that all these sports that then followed afterward kind of started to do. So show the fact that we got leadership, and we got leadership ability in the highest places that make the right calls to continue to grow the sport.
So I know, the bare knuckle boxing's emerged, and it kind of was the next thing that was reminiscent of the barbaric. How can this be sanctioned? How can this be okay? And now, professional slap boxing is the next wave, and obviously from a financial standpoint, it extends fighters' careers. It gives guys that have a big fan base, a Chuck Liddell or things like people with huge names and presence, a chance to still compete, still do something competitive. Would you ever do it? Would you ever consider being a former champ?
Hell no. No way. Because look, I mean, I give those guys so much credit, because to get slapped in your face, just to let somebody have an open shot on you, it takes some moxie, it takes some gall, it takes some things that I don't think I have right now, and taking brain damage for free like that, I mean, you're gonna get brain damage, you know what I'm saying? Like you're like the way that these guys are slapping, Oh man,
brutal.
forget about it. No way.
The no defense thing is the thing for
That's
me.
the thing. That's what gets me about it.
Yeah.
Like the no defense thing is like, give me a fighting chance. Let me get my hands up, and we'll see who gets to land a hit first.
And you get a penalty if you flinch.
Right. Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, as kids, we used to always slap. It's like, let's have a slap contest.
Yeah.
You go first. Whoever hits softest, you go first. You go this way.
Yeah.
So it's you go first, and you tap, and then you haul off and stuff. Well, I lose.
Yeah.
You know, have you ever had the time to sit back and look at your career, look where you came from, what you did, what you accomplished?
I have. You know, now that I've on the second half of my life, you know, now I can look back and kind of look at it with different eyes. You know, because when I'm so into it, it was hard for me to really see it, you know, for what it was, because I'm so into it. You know, I was too close to the screen. But once I've gotten this time to reflect, once I got a chance to get perspective in different ways, I'm able to go back and look at my career and just kind of enjoy it, you know, enjoy the ups and enjoy the downs, you know, and just, you know, enjoy it in its totality and be like, damn, I really did that, you know, and be happy about it.
A lot of times when athletes retire or move on to their next stage, they lose themselves. They lose their body. You look good. I mean, you look like you're 18 years old, and you probably could get back in there and fight. What are you doing? What are you doing right?
You know, I'm just, you know, being very conscious about what I put into my body, you know, everything that I eat, and just, you know, just everything that I ingest, you know, from visually speaking to, you know, every single thing, audio, all of it. It's just, I watch what I put into my body, and I've just kind of been, you know, on this path of just, you know, better health. But I've been, you know, diving into functional mushrooms, into, you know, trying to just live a healthier life, because when I was getting ready to just retire, I went through that scary point where I was like, man, I don't know if my body's gonna hold out, because I was supposed to fight in New York against Tim Kennedy, but I didn't get a license because they found something on my MRI, you know, a brain on the brain scan, and it was talking about like I had some kind of damage to the frontal lobe of my brain, so I didn't get a license. But upon getting cleared and upon clearing up that situation, it was determined that it was something that happened before I was fighting. But they told me, you know, I went to go see the guy from concussion. He said, yeah, it was something that you had on the MRI before, but I can't imagine that it's going to get any better if you keep on fighting. It's going to definitely get worse. So when I got close to retiring, I was kind of thinking like, what am I going to do to kind of see if I can rejuvenate anything in my brain, see if I can kind of turn around some of this damage that I did to my body. Because at that age, you know, when I could see myself, you know, when I could see the end, now I started to really, the trauma that I really put on my body starts to really dawn on me, because now I know I can't do this forever, you know?
Now, you mentioned functional mushrooms. You know, the old guy here, remember in the 70s, all that kind of stuff. You think differently when you hear the word mushrooms.
Yeah.
You know, the psychedelic, the drug stuff. Tell me, what is functional mushrooms and obviously the difference?
Yeah, so functional mushrooms and psychedelic mushrooms are totally two different things. You know, the psychedelic, of course, is the psilocybin. It takes you, you know, on a kind of journey, you know. But with the functional mushroom, it has the same neurological benefits, and it definitely treats certain different parts of your body, like lion's mane for the cognitive function, turkey tail for the gut, reishi for overall health, and cordyceps for the lungs. So it has like this adaptogenic nature to it that gives your body exactly what it needs. So, you know, and it's legal, but it has a lot of benefits for your body. Like, you know, the neurological aspect is something that I experienced for myself, because, you know, having a brain injury, I felt my body start to neurologically be able to pick up where I was before. You know, like when I first started, like I was able to be sharper about my attacks and being able to see an opening and be able to get to it. Because when I was trailing off to the end of my career, I would try to do a technique and I'll see the opening, but just couldn't get there fast enough. You know, neurologically I kind of slowed down a bit, but you know, when I rebooted and did that one-off fight a year ago for Habib's, for his organization, Eagle FC, I was using functional mushrooms, and I never felt better during camp.
I mean, you look great. I mean, like, but that's the thing about the sport now, is where back when it was coming up, nobody really put much thought or effort into recovery. And now you see everybody has hyperbaric chambers. Everybody trains out to. Everybody has cold plunges and ways of recovering to compete again at their optimal level. In fact, I own a mobile gym that trains people in the sympathetic nervous system. So what it does is it takes away your balance and equilibrium to access your sympathetic response, which is all neurological from your brain to the motor skill of action.
Wow.
So I train all the pro fighters. I try, even when it comes to like control and grip or the clinch, people grab the wrist and they think the power's here. So the power's here.
Right.
This is control, these three fingers. So I can actually have people hold with just their grip strength and train them in a different way that stimulates them neurologically as well as physically. And if you're still in South Florida, we'll link up. I'll bring it down to you.
We'll drive down.
But I love what you're saying, because that's another thing that gets overlooked when it comes to training. The neurological aspect. How does it add up? How could you leverage that to become a better athlete? And coming from where we were back in the day when Greg Jackson was having us run up the Sandia Mountains and just have us putting us on like training was like a death camp, like you just didn't know if you were gonna make it, But it made you mentally so strong when you get ready for a fight, but it wasn't the best for your body, And speaking of things that you do, those are the kind of things that would add way more to a fighter's career, during the career and even afterwards.
It would make more sense for us to send the limo down and bring Rashad to us. That way, after you do all that stuff that I won't do, then we can eat pizza.
Let's do it.
Because you can't bring the pizza down. That wouldn't make sense.
Sure.
So you brought us some things to try.
Yeah.
And I said I first wanted to find out about it. So as we were talking about the mushrooms, there's mushrooms in this.
Yeah, so it's all about putting mushrooms back into the diet. But people are not very comfortable having mushrooms. They don't really like the taste of them. And we found a way to get these tasty mushrooms, or maybe not so tasty mushrooms, into your body in a very tasty way with our Umber bar. It has 2,500 milligrams of lion's mane, turkey tail, reishi, and cordyceps in it. So it packs a powerful punch in. It's one of the best tasting bars in the game right now. It's better than a dang candy bar. That's how good it is. But it's something. The thing is, we're missing a whole food group. And if you look at like traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, they've known about functional mushrooms for thousands of years, and they prescribe them to people who are going through different things. But what these apply to for us in today's day and time is so important, because we're constantly bombarded by neurological toxins, whether it be an environment or the food that we eat. And when it comes to kind of staving off neuropathy, something that happens as we get older, the degeneration of nerves, you need something like that, because that right there it helps with the neuroplasticity and neuroregeneration, which is absolutely huge.
So if I like mushrooms, the regular mushrooms in the can, so I would like this thing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so you said something important about the digestive tract, right?
Yes.
So we're now learning more about the GI tract and how important it plays in with the brain and the function of the mind, as far as leaky gut and things. So I'm excited to try it. I can't wait to give it a go.
And that's the thing about it. Like you look at one of the mushrooms, turkey tail. Turkey tail is so good for gut health because it feeds a beneficial gut bacteria. And people who are going through chemo, they have their doctors who are all allopathic say, hey, maybe you should try some turkey tail because it feeds healthy gut bacteria, therefore helping the body break down the food better. And what happens in our body is the fact that we get a lot of stagnation because of the fact that we eat foods that have a hard time breaking down in our body, breaking down in the gut, and we have stagnation. And once stagnation happens in the digestive system, it happens everywhere else. So it really helps the body feel a lot better just eating something.
Where can people get this? Where can they purchase it?
So they can go to getumble.com. They can sign up for the newsletter. They can get 10% off the first purchase, and it's something that I think that everybody should start implementing in their diet, because not only does it have great benefits if you're an athlete, but just as a normal person, just trying to clear out your neurological body and really trying to treat your body in a special way, it has to be with them.
Before we let you go, I have to ask you, your thoughts on Saturday, and what are some other fights that are coming up that you're looking forward to?
Man, I think that Makhachev gets it done. I think that when it comes to just gonna grading the talent, you have to look at the fact that Volkanovski has been absolutely amazing. What he did to Max Holloway, for me, made me a big fan of him. But when it comes to the ability to survive on the ground with a guy from Dagestan, the way that they grapple, the way that they move, the way they put the pressure on top, it's going to be hard to do. He may be able to survive one takedown, maybe even two, maybe three at tops, but being able to come back on his feet and be the same fighter striking-wise is going to be hard. And I feel like that's where the rubber meets the road for him. And I feel like at that point, where the rubber meets the road for him is where you're going to see Makhachev really kind of explode and really show his dominance.
I know you got something, but as you're sitting up in the booth and you're doing some stuff that you're doing still with the UFC, do you ever say, I could?
All the time. I think I could, and I feel like I can. And I train all the time, and I coach some guys right now in South Florida. But what I learned from my last fight is the fact that I've become too civilized, and I say that not to say that the fight is so primitive and underneath me, but there's a savage mindset. You got to have a savage mindset, and you have to be willing to go at savage lengths to win. And I'm just not ready to do that anymore.
Well, I think you've advanced